And the plan is to go over there with about 5 minutes.
(5:30) will bring us work session to order.
Well, thank you for that gavel in. It is our pleasure tonight to, as we build more of these work session times, these are times for our teams to get together and share things that we're working on, working through. And tonight, we're excited to talk through some assessment and some accountability measures that were actually new Senate bills. And so Marlene and her team, and Marlene's definitely taking the lead, have put together some good information that I thought, as board members, you'd like to know, and then we can maybe interact with, as well as to share some exciting things that are going on as it relates to supporting this work this year. So, Marlene.
Okay, so board members take one. If I have an extra, you can pick. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Man. All right. Okay, so we're gonna jump into SB 141 and accountability. We'll talk a little bit about kind of some new things around accountability, and then this is supposed to be a conversation. So when you have questions, just interrupt and ask your questions as we go forward. So how many of you know about SB 141, the new accountability rules that are coming to school districts in Oregon? Okay, great. That's great. Formative assessment right here. Thank you, Brady. Wonderful. All right, so that's good. If you know something and I get it wrong, you guys can correct me, but otherwise we'll kind of jump in and I'll tell you a little bit about these. So this started in 2023. And it was when ODE was directed to convene a work group around accountability. They were really looking at was kind of what we do for accountability as a state. We really haven't had very restrictive accountability rules since AYP and No Child Left Behind. And so we kind of took a step back from those. And then they wanted to look at see where are we going, because as you know, Oregon's achievement rates aren't what maybe many of the legislatures want them to be. So in December 2024, an accountability report was released, and then later that accountability report led to legislation being passed in this past summer, June 2025. Around accountability, and that was SB 141, and it was signed into law, and it is currently in the beginning stages of implementation. So that's kind of where we are right now. Some key components of SB 141 is it's going to expand our performance growth targets. So I'm going to go through our integrated programs this evening. And part of those have the 5 components that we are currently being evaluated on our accountability, but we're going to add some to it. It adds K2 regular attendance. It adds 8th grade math proficiency, which we actually added in our strategic plan as a local metric. That now will no longer be a local metric, that will be a required metric. So we will have to meet accountability goals or expectations around that. And then we will have an option to add a local metric, but we will be required to add, it won't be an option. So they will give us a menu of possible local metrics, and then we get to choose from those. We have a lot of metrics in our strategic plan, and I'm pretty confident that one of those will align very nicely with some of the ones that they're doing. Questions? Yeah.
Quick clarifying question.
Yep.
Well, we're talking about these accountability new metrics that we got to. This is talking about district level, school level, right? This is not a change for like graduation requirements or like going back to that state testing all that thing.
No, that is still currently paused to
That's all.
yeah. That rule is paused.
So students diploma, that's paused, there's no accountability. metrics for the individual students, but it will be up to the school for us for coming back.
Yeah. Good question. Good question.
Would they tell us what the options are for the?
They should be telling us, in December 2025, they adopt them, and then guidance is released at the end of 2025, so we should hear about it probably after winter break. We'll start to hear like, these are your choices, because, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but because, so I'm gonna explain kind of this, performance growth target plan timeline. Because essentially we set the goals with ODE in the spring for next school year for 26-27. So that's kind of the work we'll be doing next spring around those goals. Now I'm gonna jump back up to those requirements, okay? If there's no other.
Yeah.
Okay, no, don't be sorry. That's what I want. And I want to make time. So we have our interim assessments, and that's kind of the information that we're gonna go over today around our MAP growth assessment. That's why it's folded, because we're gonna dive into that and looking at how our students are doing district-wide. And that is a component of this legislation. So we're kind of ahead of the game on that, which is really exciting. It feels good to be ahead. So another piece or another component, which is really great news in the teaching and learning world, is where the Department of Education is the bill repealed publisher fees. And so what that means is on the state adopted list, all of those publishers with the instructional materials that we ask you to approve, if we choose from that list, and it's already approved by the state of Oregon, they've vetted it. But the only people who can submit those are people who pay to submit, and it's quite expensive, the fee. And so we only see these huge, large publishers that really are mostly like curated for large states like Texas and California. And then we'll get to see some other instructional materials that maybe aren't as big and expensive, which will be good for us because as you know, when you through the budget, you see curriculum materials themselves, they're a huge, huge price tag. And so this should help with some of those costs and fees. Okay, additional components are they are revising Division 22 to add more accountability. Right now, it's kind of a compliance checklist. I fill it out. I attest that we're following all the rules. They are looking at adding some additional compliance. So what that looks like, we don't know. The rulemaking is happening, but there will be additional monitoring besides somebody attesting that we are in compliance. And then the last bit is this law requires that ODE expands school supports from prevention all the way to intervention, and it's rooted in accountability. So this is where it's going to look different across the state and kind of it won't look like AYP certainly, or No Child Left Behind. You know, we've learned a lot from that era, but it will have what's currently available. So you can see down here, the blue, the green, and the orange, that currently is an option to districts. But now, if you're not meeting your performance growth targets, there's going to be a level of intervention that happens. And that will look like state directed intervention to follow some of the compliance rules. So that might look like directed coaching, intensive coaching, and hopefully we never get in a position where the state of Oregon has to come in and help us spend our money in a way that is evidence and research based, but that would be what that.
Is there a plan? Because looking at these two categories, so coming in and doing coaching or coming in and directing funding, that kind of assumes that ODE knows the actions we should be taking or the investments we should be, are they gonna communicate those ahead of time to districts or is how?
We have a lot of that already in statute. So part of the Division 22 is the absolute baseline of education for students that they want every school district to hit in Oregon. And within each of those rules, you know, all components, and all rules, they map out what we should and shouldn't be doing. And it's lofty, it's a lot. The baseline of education, if we do to the maximum extent, is providing some really excellent education. And that's also really expensive, right? Like we just came into compliance with instructional materials. And part of the reason why we were out of compliance was because we couldn't afford the instructional materials. And then you get behind, and then it's really challenging to have teachers take on 5 different new adoptions in 5 years. And so, yes, it is all laid out. We have rubrics that go with that we're supposed to follow. And it's still challenging.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, thank you.
So coaching is a pretty broad topic. What is coaching? This diagram.
Opt-in customized coaching, I believe, is, and they haven't provided all the technical guidance on this yet, but it's like we work in partnership with our ESD a lot, so Northwest Regional ESD. Like, for example, we do attendance teams, and our attendance teams are monitoring K-2 attendance, but it's really K-12 attendance. And we get support and coaching from the ESD on what are the best platforms to use? How are you looking at data? What do you do with the data? What does a home visit look like? Let's go through a script of a home visit. How do you do a home visit and still have like are sensitive to different cultures or people's experiences, their lived lives? And so that would be maybe an example of coaching.
So somewhere on the other side of coaching is a huge pot of someone's looking at when you fall out of compliance, this gigantic district-wide set of metrics. So somebody's looking at when you fall out, you need coaching. Or you can preempt your coaching.
Correct.
It's
I
gotta
mean,
be
you can
enormous.
choose to get coaching and then
Yeah, but there's so many topics to be coached. You said attendance, I could see it being.
it's
All
probably
kinds.
any of the metrics that were what that they're looking at.
So those are,
Those
are-
would be the areas.
those exist or those are still coming?
We have-
Monitoring pieces.
We have the 5 already,
Okay.
with the integrated programs, and then we're adding K-2 regular attendant, 8th grade math proficiency, and the local metric of it.
One of the biggest lifts on that OE is expressing us as a district is to get over here to these. Like those are people that would be coming in to coach and direct the district.
Yes,
And they're trying to figure out, they're working hard to try to figure out how, what would that look like, who would that be, how would they fund it, all of that.
a little bit on the air, but it can be coaching for the budget committee for that matter.
I mean, within the
Budget is falling out of Oregon compliance. I don't know, I'm very lost by what this is gonna cover. Are there, and look, it's coming, I suppose it'll come now.
I mean,
Shows up.
we'll know more, yeah,
Yeah.
as they do more rule making and set of positions. But it is likely going to be centered around teaching and learning. And those 5 metrics, are we getting kids to graduate on time? Are they prepared for graduation? Are they 9th grade on track? Are they hitting the 8th grade proficiency standards, which means we're continuously increasing our proficiency rate?
So this is, I know it's different, but I'm like 20 years ago, when the No Child Left Behind Act, there was this kind of over the standard, getting that in, didn't hit it. But I remember my first job being at a rural school where it was a failing school.
Yeah.
It was labeled. And yeah, the state came in basically and said, no, this is the curriculum you're gonna teach. And, you know, here's the training you're going to, here's all the things you're gonna do. Is that the impression I'm getting, that that's kind of what we're moving to, like we have to have that? Maybe not quite as heavy handed, or
So with AYP, they took funding away, and sometimes they would completely transform schools. Those were called transformational schools. So if you didn't meet AYP, their annual yearly progress on your proficiency scores, and you would have a potential of having funds taken away. in this case, they're not gonna take funds away, but they may say something like, we want you to use your funds towards this. And that is a component of certain grants already, like if we don't follow N98 and follow our rubric. And report that we completed the rubric and completed it with accuracy. They could come in, and we've had to have coaching before, on, we needed to get a NTSS system started. That was one of the reasons why. I mean, it is good practice and evidence-based, but we also had some coaching, not with them directing our money or anything like that, but just some additional coaching. Okay, we're about 15 minutes. I'd like to share some of our growth data if you guys are ready. Let's look. Okay, so this is our MAP growth. This is our interim assessment that we are using and chose. And MAP stands for Measures of Academic Progress. And it's a computer adaptive test. And it adjusts based off the difficulty. So when a student gets a problem correct, it's a little bit harder. When a student gets a problem wrong, it gets a little bit easier. And so you have to think, when you're a student taking this assessment, you're going to get 50% of the problems right, and you're going to get 50% of your problems wrong, because it's going to write itself as it goes. It's measured using a RIT score. A RIT scale is just a measure of student academic achievement level on a scale that's independent of grade level. So everybody is measured kind of like, if you think about height, we're all measured using the same metric of height, right? Feet and inches usually. If you are in America, at least. The results are not tied to grades, but they inform instruction. So we'll get this 2 times a year. And then we will monitor our use. So what you're looking at, the first one, and I know it's really small, sorry about that, is our K-12 math scores and our distribution. So some things to look at is you really see kindergarten through 8th grade on the map. You'll notice that we have a fairly normal distribution, which means there's about the same amount of color there in each quintile. The scores are looking good. The way that we like to think of it is the percentage in the red has an opportunity for more growth, the most amount of growth, right? Because there is a stopping point. So the blue, we don't expect to see those students grow as much because they just have less room to grow, whereas our red has tons of room to grow. We get really excited about that opportunity. And then you'll see on the next page, we have reading. You might notice, well, why don't I give you a second to look at these and you can tell me what you notice.
This is all comparative for us, right? This isn't comparing other.
This is compared to, so basically these percentiles that you see in front of you are how our range of scores compare with other students in the same grade level across the United States.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, I think that he takes this particular product.
Yes, and I can't tell you how many schools and districts take it off the top of my head. I can find that information out for you, but it is pretty common in Oregon, but it's also very common nationwide.
It's common.
Yeah.
We did it in Washington State.
But Marlene, is it that one that everyone got upset about, it's a national one every 2 years?
Not Nate.
That is not Nate, it's not Nate.
How many kids opt to take this?
No.
All
No,
kids take it.
All kids take it.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, yeah.
and I had an opportunity to have experience with these districts that I worked in, and so that was fun for me to see as we bring this in as an interim assessment, which was needed, timely, and also before the Senate bill came in. I was really happy to see, because this is one way that we can track, it's a checkpoint in time, that's what it is. But we saw students take this and really appreciate the adaptive nature of, you get it right, you keep going that way, you get it wrong, instead of feeling stuck on another standardized test. And so K-8 wise, we're excited to use this as another metric for us to help kind of monitor progress as a district.
I like that piece too.
And, oh,
I was just gonna say really quickly, I don't know how it's framed in a classroom setting. I just know from talking to kids about tests that don't count for your grade, how that can become less important to them to do well sometimes as they get older. Maybe more so boys than girls, but yeah, I have a feeling there's research around that, but I guess I would love to see if there's not some conversation about that this allows for us to know what kind of interventions they might need. Because like some intrinsic value to them, you know, that if you rush through it because you get done with it quickly, that's awesome, but then we're gonna think you need a lot more. You know, and we want to see all the things you already know, you know, like that's kind of the thing with the standard testing when kids are like, I finished it in 26 seconds. I'm like, that is awesome. That did 0 for the district to know how well we're teaching, you know what I mean? And so that's just always the tough thing, but I love that everybody takes it and I like the nature of it, adapting as they go.
Oh, sorry.
well, I was just gonna, cause I just kind of preliminarily
Yeah.
talking to in some conversations, cause this does have curriculum. Looks.
It
Right.
was like next steps.
Yeah.
So teachers will be able to kind of get like some ideas of what they can do with students as next steps, but by no means is it just that. So our instructional coaches and our teaching and learning department will have to build instruction around this. So what do you do when a student is performing in this level? And then we can dig into it deeper and we can see what like different areas that they might be struggling with, and we will have to create those interventions or use one of our current intervention systems to support teachers on strategies on how to support students. So this is the testing tool. It gives us some resources, but we also will have to support our teachers in building some. For sure.
But it's different than like a standardized test where like kids take it. Find out what the aggregated score is. This is like immediate feedback that the teachers can look and say, oh, here's where you are.
That's what it's nice. Immediate feedback. It does give us some resources. We still have work that we have to do, but it's so much better than having nothing. I mean, and every student has to be, because we have local.
So the messaging to kids now, back when they were able to opt out of tests, how is that being received? Not enough, if not that often.
I don't think any of our students are like, I refuse to take this test really unless there is like some sort of like student who maybe has some sort of like IEP around that and then support that student trying to like take one question at a time or whatever. One thing we know is our students need assessment literacy just as much as, you know, our adults do. And when they take this test, they can get stuck. It's getting harder and harder and harder, and that can be. And so what we try to tell them is you will get 50% right, get 50% wrong, and that is okay. This is assessment literacy. That's useful as a tool because, you know, when they're taking other standardized assessments that are high risk, having this experience, high risk or high stakes, having this assessment will teach them how to do that. So when they're taking the SAT, it won't be so jarring to miss one of the problems, right? And move on. Just pass it and keep going.
Our state test is adaptive.
Our state test is adaptive, yes. Yeah, very similar in how this moves.
Which is another benefit to having students practice, use this as a checkpoint too. It's another really good benefit. The other thing that I've experienced with this is just teacher teams, PLCs, and folks working together when they get results. They like to connect and communicate. They also like to have that second round of testing because it just really gives them that information. And Matt, you had mentioned, they aren't waiting until the summer to get results. They come back and move forward.
So what I guess Steele will probably end on tonight, is kind of what the family report looks like. This is what it would look like, we'll have a letter that goes with it. Ours might not be quite as pretty as this one, but it would looks very similar. And, kind of talks about where the student is in their percentile. Now, our students will just have a dot, because they just took it once, right? And so this first time, it won't look as robust as this, but over time, parents will really get to see their child throughout growth throughout many, many years while they're here, which is wonderful.
How often are students gonna take the assessment?
Great question. So we're gonna do twice in a year if you are a student who has a summative test at the end of the year, like a state assessment. So, and part of the reason is we're just trying this out, and that is, we just don't wanna over test, and we don't really know, like how much time we'll have the pacing, and how long it takes. And then students who are K2, they don't have a summative test, they'll take it during the spring as well, so we'll have fall, winter, spring score for them, and then 3rd through 8th grade will take it. Fall.
Do you know how long it roughly takes them to get through a test?
Yeah, it's K2, I would say it's probably about 30 minutes for each test, some people say it's about 20. Then 3rd through 5, it's probably about 45 for each test, but it does take some kids up to 60 minutes or longer. My daughter is in 3rd grade. It takes her a full week to get through this test. She does not like getting problems wrong. And, but she just chips away. And for some kids, that's the long end. She's probably on the wrong end of the side of that. That's okay. And then middle school, it's going to take between 60 and 90 minutes for each test. So it takes longer as they go, mostly because it's just longer passages to read, more complex. And our students who are performing quite high in middle school, they're doing pretty complex math problems with multiple steps.
And because you do end up with someone who got these questions after math, it's like, sometimes they're gonna see things that they just never seen.
Yep,
And so it's part of it is just like figuring out, like, okay, what is this?
Yes.
I'm being asked to do.
yes, and always, one thing that like we try to tell our own child is, hey, you're gonna get these wrong and that's okay. And that's part of that assessment literacy that we're trying to coach parents, teachers, and students.
I know, it's not, last one, is this like real? I just went over it.
No.
Okay, Sean is not on
Is it
track
real?
to take the SAT.
Yeah.
So this is some of this.
This is not a real student. This is-
But is that reflective of equal days?
We could include that, ours will not have.
But the kid is like 86th and 95th percentile, and it says not on track to take the SAT.
Oh, is this one real? No, this is just an example.
Oh, okay, so it didn't correlate with the numbers of this kid, I'm, geez,
We kind of said it growth of the 86th percentile,